All right, I will call to order the Yamhill County Board of Commissioners formal session for August 8th of 2024. It is 10 o'clock in the morning. Commissioner Johnston, would you please lead us in the flag salute?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. We are looking at our calendar session. We've got several things for next week that Bailey let us know about. They're already on there. I do want to review, we were mentioning that I think a couple of months ago now, we talked about not having a BOC session. Was it the beginning of June that we
29th.
didn't? And then August, the last part of August, so August 29th. So I just want to confirm that's the understanding of everybody. Does that sound right? Okay. Okay. So that's that. Anything else to add to the calendar? Okay. Okay, we will move on to public comment. Item D, this time period is reserved for public comment on any topic other than an agenda item, a quasi judicial land use matter, or a topic scheduled for a public hearing. So if you're in the audience to provide public comment on any general topics, or if you are online, please raise your virtual hand. Looks like we have online. Is this Mr. Flood?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Can you hear me?
Can't hear.
Kevin, if you are speaking, we can't hear you.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes,
I
now
can hear. Okay, fantastic.
thank you. Please proceed.
Okay, yes, ma'am. As you know, I've had a few correspondences with a few of the commissioners and Mr. Ken Hupper regarding my employment and regarding the unethical management practices that I called out almost a year ago now, in August. So there's been some developments, but I want to start by saying that about 1 year ago today, maybe a couple of days prior, I emailed you all the commissioners, including Mr. Hupper, the administrator, and I raised some concerns that there's a lot of unethical management practices. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that email, but I got no response from that email from anyone. And then two business days later, maybe 2 or 3 business days later, Mr. Lago proceeded to mischaracterize my behavior at work and put me on administrative leave, and then proceeded to investigate, which led ultimately to my termination. And just keep in mind, like I said, it was 2 days after that I had written the email regarding the unethical management practices that I was speaking of. So beginning August of last year, I attempted to bring to light the unethical practices of Yamhill County Public Works. As soon as my attempt to report such practices, I was slandered and I was defamed. My reputation was attacked. I was gaslighted. It seemed that accountability does not exist in Yamhill County. And I do want to say that I stated that in the email that I sent you guys prior to the investigation and prior to all of this. And I was proven right. I was put on paid leave 2 days after that I emailed you guys. And as I was wrongfully terminated after that, paid administrative leave, and I got nowhere as far as anyone seeming to care about what the issues I've raised regarding the unethical behavior that I witnessed. I decided to reach out to the Government Ethics Commission regarding some of the unethical practices that I witnessed in the Public Works Department, and they agreed. So they opened up an investigation. During the investigation, the commission found, this is the Oregon State Ethics Commission I'm speaking about. During the investigation, the commission found that during just a small portion of Mr. Sims' employment, he engaged in at least 25 instances of unethical behavior, which were a violation of state ethics laws. And as you know, Mr. Lago did not break the law by the law standards, but he was just as responsible as Mr. Sims in my mind. So I just want to say that now that state agency has found the practices are unethical and unlawful, I'm asking the Board of Commissioners to hold him accountable. His supervisor, Ken Huffer, for defending Mr. Lago and Mr. Sims. They continue. Are you guys going to continue to allow them to disgrace the position of the service to the great people of Yamhill County? I think we deserve better. And I think that concludes my statement.
Thank you, Mr. Flood.
You're welcome.
Okay. Any other public comment, whether online or in person? Okay, hearing none. We don't typically respond to employment related matters during public comment, so I think we will discuss Mr. Flood's comments and concerns internally. Item E is our department update. And we are joined by our Sheriff, Sam Elliott. Welcome, Sheriff.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Feel like we've seen a lot of you lately.
I know, I feel like I have spent quite a bit of time down here lately, so. I do appreciate the opportunity, though, to come and talk with you about what's going on in the sheriff's office. Give you an update about where things are at, some of the initiatives and the requests that have come before you for various things. It's a good opportunity to give you a little bit of feedback about where we're at with some of those. So just wanted to talk very generally about some things, and certainly if you ever have questions or want additional detail, I'm happy to provide that. So one of the biggest things was right after I was appointed, I came before you and talked about the need to update our policy manual. We have contracted with Lexipol, which is a very well-known industry expert with law enforcement policy. And we have been continuing to work through that policy manual update. I believe it's 168 policies total in that policy manual for the sheriff's office. We are roughly 25% of the way through the actual review and edits of those 168, but we are 50% of the way towards actually rolling out policy to staff. We started with what they call tier 1 policies, which are the high risk, high liability, use of force, vehicle pursuits, standards of conduct, and that's where we have focused, and we are almost done with tier 1 policies. And then we will start into tier 2 and then tier 3, and each tier, they are less and less liability driven policies. And so the company Lexipol, they are like clockwork. We get the next batch of policies on a regular schedule. We have to review those internally. We have to make sure that our practices are reflected in the policy. We don't want our policy to not be the way that we do business, but we also have to review the way that we do business to see that we are in compliance with best practices and case law and Oregon law. So along with that, I'm going to jump ahead just a little bit, that we are also in the middle of rewriting or reviewing our jail policy. So the Lexipol policy applies to the entire office. It applies to corrections and patrol and non-sworn support services. But but we want the two to be in alignment with each other. And so our jail specific policy, we are also going through at the same time internally to make sure that the references to overall policy are accurate and that they're in alignment with the most recent updates to the Oregon jail standards. So that is looking like probably an October where we will be pushing out policy for all staff to review those updates. So some of the other projects that
Excuse me, Sheriff, I
Yeah.
just one question. Is there, what's the collaboration with our insurance provider?
So we actually have a meeting next week where we're going to be talking about some of the Oregon jail standards and policy. But the insurance provider really just wants to make sure that our conduct is in alignment with our policy. They don't have a lot to do with setting policy.
State statutes and making sure.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Some of the other projects that we have undertaken, at least calendar year 2024, or maybe even just before that, we have reestablished a full-time presence in the rural, very rural, remote parts of the county through our agreements with Bureau of Land Management and Oregon State Parks and Recreation in the Upper Nestucca off-highway vehicle area. So we have a deputy assigned full-time now that is working up in essentially the Coast Range. He is extremely busy dealing with the problems that come to us in that part of the county with a lot of illegal dumping, a lot of effect to natural resources theft, criminal mischief. Obviously with fire season right now, we're concerned about people that are shooting unsafely and engaging in conduct that poses a fire danger. So that has been a huge success for us, just having that regular presence up in those remote areas that it's just not feasible for regular patrol deputies to get up there on a regular basis. We did receive grant funding from Oregon State Parks and Recreation to purchase a second ATV. And so between our full-time individual and our reserve deputies that work up there, we're able to have a lot stronger presence within the trail network up at Upper Nestucca as well. Our body worn cameras have been in place for over a year now. All staff are wearing body cameras, patrol and jail. It's been tremendously helpful and successful. Extremely well received by the public. It's been very, very helpful for us when we have a complaint or we have a need to review a certain situation. So the body camera project, I would say, is a huge success and has saved us a ton of time in looking at those reviews, whether it be a use of force review or whether it be a review of a complaint about conduct. And just kind of on a overarching level, what we find is that the vast majority of the time, the body camera actually exonerates our staff of any wrongdoing. The complaints that we get, the body camera footage shows that they actually didn't say what somebody said that they said or did. So we're working on completion of a professional visit booth in the jail. So this is a booth that is right off of the main lobby and will allow for professional visits for DHS, for pretrial services to come in and speak with adults in custody. With 4002, we anticipate there being a need for treatment providers to be able to meet with AICs as they're looking to be released. And so we've remodeled an area, or are currently in the process of remodeling an area so that we can facilitate those professional visits for individuals that are in custody to meet with professionals coming into the facility. We have several ongoing repairs and maintenance issues within the jail. And we are moving, in fact, this morning, we have a water leak that's being repaired. And so we moved the entire female general population dorm into a different dorm so that they can complete the work. And so we're shifting our adult and custody population around to facilitate access into those areas to complete some of those necessary repairs. This week, we just launched our new records request portal. So this is the portal for the public to make a request to get a copy of a police report, to get information. The link is live. It's accessible on our website. This is a software that allows us to more easily redact certain information that needs to be redacted, but it is one central hub that we can see all pending requests. We can see the status of the request. We can see if the request has been fulfilled, instead of essentially maintaining an Excel spreadsheet. And so when the requester inputs all of the information, it generates that request in the pending queue for our support services folks to be able to fulfill those requests. The requester is able to be very specific with what they're looking for, and also facilitate us getting the information that we need to be able to fulfill the request. So it's called Next Request. And like I said, we've been working on getting it set up, and we've done all of the testing. We had a couple of our regular requesters that we deal with, a lot of insurance companies, getting copies of crash reports, and they were willing to work with us and do some pilot testing to make sure that when we deployed it for the general public, we didn't have any issues. So that is now live, and that is going to be very, very helpful for staff in just maintaining continuity of workflow. We went through a major project this spring. Huge thanks to Shane and the IT team. We had to update all of the in-car computers as well as dispatch to a 2023 version of our mobile and CAD. And so that was a big lift for them, but they were able to get it done. So we are now on a current version of CAD and mobile for all of the field units. And that is one of the things that was necessary to take place for security reasons, but also setting us up because we are in the middle of our RMS upgrade, which is our records management system in the sheriff's office. And so that's all of our police reports and crash data and citation data that all gets input. I know that was before you last year and through the budgeting process. So we are still on schedule and working with the vendor and the internal teams, both with the county and the city of McMinnville in that partnership for the RMS upgrade. We also transitioned to a new provider for the radio system maintenance here in the county. So they are still undergoing their overall assessment of the system and advising of kind of priorities of things that they are recommending that we give attention to. And so that has been overall a pretty seamless transition. We identified within the first week a couple of things that we needed to address and have been able to address those. So that's going to be an ongoing discussion about the radio system itself. As we all know, it's getting up there in years and looking at needing to replace it. We are in the home stretch when it comes to the RFP process for the medical provider in the jail. So we had 2 responses and are working with the review team that includes folks from community justice and juvenile and the sheriff's office, looking at those responses to the RFP. We just last week were able to finally get some software updates to the control panel in the jail. It appears as though we've backtracked. The lightning strike last year caused some issues, and we actually got that control panel and software updated. So now we are again able to accurately see when the deputy in control clicks on a particular housing location, it actually shows who currently is assigned to be housed in there. And so it was nice to be able to get that updated so that we have good, current, accurate information. The biggest, I guess, struggle for the office right now is staffing. And you guys know that. I've told you that. We currently have 2 deputy vacancies in the jail. I'm also aware of 2 deputies that have applied out of the corrections division to other law enforcement agencies. We have 1 supervisor who's currently on light duty. And we have 2 of the deputies that we have hired, but they're still in training. So they're not solo. They're not able to work by themselves. They have to be paired with somebody else. What that translates to from a, I guess, a reality in the working environment is 2 of the 4 teams are at minimum staffing every day. They just, that's the number of staff we have, and that's what's scheduled. And so any vacancy that comes about because of someone wanting to take a vacation, somebody calling out sick, somebody having training, having to up staff because we've got somebody at the hospital, that all results in overtime. So every single day, the 2 of the 4 teams, they are scheduled. Everybody that's assigned to the team is scheduled to work, but that is minimum staffing. And so that's taking a toll on the overtime budget, and it's taking a toll on personnel that there's just no depth to be able to cover short notice vacancies. So we have mandatory more people this year than probably ever in the history of the jail, at least that anybody that currently works there can remember. So we are having to mandate people to come in on their day off or to stay over past the end of their shift to cover a part of the next shift with a frequency that we haven't seen before. We are working through backgrounds and trying to fill vacancy as quickly as possible, trying to get those folks through training. But it's just that dog chasing a tail, it seems, with staffing right now, trying to keep vacancies full. And it just takes so long to get folks through training if they have to go to the academy and get them to where they're able to show up and work a shift by themselves. Patrol has 3 deputy vacancies currently. I'm also aware of 2 patrol deputies who are currently in process with other agencies. We have 3 that are out on some sort of leave or light duty. So that's a total of 6 that are not filling shifts. We have 1 in the academy and 1 that just transferred from the jail to patrol. So he's starting his field training. So all of them together is 8 deputies that are not able to work a solo patrol shift. One of the vacancy, we also have a vacancy in our detective division. And so what that translates to from a practicality standpoint is the administrative sergeant for patrol and our professional standards lieutenant are currently assigned to patrol, working patrol schedules and patrol shifts to fill vacancy. Our budget for overtime, we have spent over $180,000 since January filling shifts on patrol and backfilling when we need to have additional people here. Again, it's just a challenge to try to keep those shifts staffed at a level that is appropriate and trying to fill those vacancies as quickly as possible. If we lose the 2 that are in process elsewhere before we're able to hire anybody else, I'm not exactly sure what that'll translate to as far as patrol staffing, but it will be a struggle for us to have 24-hour coverage. It's either going to be mandatory overtime every single day, or I'm going to have to start assigning the undersheriff and the captain to work patrol shifts, which means the administrative work is not getting done. I've been covering patrol. The captain's been covering patrol. I was out after National Night Out. We had a big event down near the county line, ended up being out helping them, and then came back. We were at minimum staffing in the jail. We had an adult in custody, had to go to the hospital. So I ended up going to the hospital, and I was there until 11 p.m. the other night, helping the jail with trying to keep minimum staffing in the jail, but address the needs that we have. So it has become a significant burden. And then we have support services. So we currently have 3 vacancies in support services, which is our records and support function. We have 3 individuals right now that are covering 7 days a week, 10 to 14 hours a day in the jail. And they are processing all of the sentencing, all of the calculations for time on sentences, all of the warrants that come down from the courts, all of the transports, people coming in, coming out. It is amazing to me that those 3 individuals can accomplish that workload every single week. We also have vacancy in support services on the patrol side. And we have seen some unfortunate timing of some major things that really affect the workflow in support services. We had the position cut in our civil division 2 years ago through the budgetary process. And just right about the same time, the 2 biggest cities in the county, Newburgh and McMinnville, let us know that they were going to turn back over all civil service function to the sheriff because it's a required function of the sheriff to serve civil papers. They were handling serving subpoenas and grand jury subpoenas in their cities, and for their own staffing reasons, they turned that back over. We are on pace this year to serve over 4,000 civil papers in 2024. And we have one person assigned to the civil division. So patrol, it's incumbent on patrol. If they are not on calls, they are out serving civil papers. We have seen a massive, massive increase in the amount of protection orders that are being granted by the courts. So a lot of these protection orders involve a move out. So it's at least a 2-deputy response. We have seen an uptick in the forced evictions. We are now doing a risk assessment on every forced eviction, just like we were going to be serving a search warrant. Based off of the trends nationwide, we're seeing civil deputies that are being shot and killed on a regular basis across the country that are serving court papers. And so we can't take any of those without doing our due diligence to ensure that we're not sending staff out to serve a forced eviction on somebody that has indicated that they are not going to be forced from their home. That takes a significant amount of time to do those threat assessments prior to every one of those. And then a lot of your civil standbys, 20 minutes for folks to get their bare essentials and tools of the trade if they're being moved out on a protection order. And so the civil volume is just increased exponentially over the last 2 years, plus picking up all of the subpoenas in the cities.
Sheriff, when you say protection order, are you talking about, is it kind of all encompassing of like custody orders and?
It's typically restraining orders, stalking orders.
So
sexual assault
one
protective
individual
orders.
is not necessarily stable, dangerous situation type of thing.
Typically there is a threat element.
Okay.
If, people are not getting a protection order against somebody that conducts themselves in a reasonable way. So
And those specifically have seen a huge increase.
I was just looking this morning. I think there's probably 10 or 12 of them sitting in the outbox to be served right now.
Okay,
So
thank you.
the other thing that we have seen is a massive amount of set-asides. Those are orders that come in that require us to basically scrub any record of a reference to somebody having a criminal arrest for something. There's been some legislative changes that require us to set aside convictions on juveniles as soon as they turn 18. And there's some timelines associated. But what we have been hearing and trying to ascertain why we've seen this massive influx is I think some of the local law schools are having students do this as part of their coursework. And they are contacting individuals and offering to pro bono help them get a conviction set aside. And so I checked with our support services manager before I came down today. We have over 800 of them sitting in our inbox right now, where we have to go back and get rid of any of those references. There's liability to us if we don't get every reference. And you talk about something like an MIP party where 10 people were issued citations and you have to get rid of any reference. It's involved to go through and make sure that any place where that data may have existed, that you touch that. So then you talk about the realities of our support services staffing and having 800 set-asides that we need to get to. It's a tremendous workload. We saw a tremendous increase in concealed handgun license applications, what I'll call kind of the early COVID times. And we are now at about 4 years since then. And so we are anticipating some months coming up here where we're probably going to have 300 to 400 or more renewals per month for folks to renew their concealed handgun license. That's just renewals, not new applications. And so there's effectively 2 people that are handling all of this. And so the staffing and workflow considerations have become something that I think you need to be aware of. All that, obviously not a great message, but I wanted to close with that we are trying to focus on wellness. We have obviously a significant burden. We have a significant amount of work across the entire office that needs to get done on a daily basis. And we have a limited number of people to do that work. and it takes a toll. And so we're trying to focus on what can we do internally to promote wellness, to ensure that folks are taking care of themselves. We want to allow them to take that vacation for their own wellness. We want to encourage healthy habits, healthy lifestyles. And so our peer support team has been doing a lot of work. We did have the barbecue this summer for families that we brought folks in, but we're also looking at some local resources here to do everything from some baseline testing. There's some companies that have really tried to bring the message that just in general, the average population, civilian population, I think the average age of a heart attack is like 67. The average age of a law enforcement personnel heart attack is 46. The amount of heart disease and the amount of heart issues, cardiac issues within law enforcement is something that's been known about, but it hasn't really been spoken about. And so we're looking at ways to try to get some baseline testing. You're starting to see this kind of spread throughout the law enforcement community, that they bring in somebody like Sigma Health that comes and does baseline testing, and they identify like 2 staff members that are like a ticking time bomb when it comes to cardiac issues. And they're able to address those before they have a major medical event. And so you look at what the costs, we need every person we have to show up to work every day and be a part of the team. And so the long-term benefits of avoiding some of those issues are worth the investment on the front end. And so our peer support team has really taken the lead on identifying ways that we can do that without interrupting workflow, without being an inconvenience, but utilizing resources that exist right here in the county to get some of that stuff accomplished and give people some tools to make sure that they are taking a few minutes every day for their personal wellness. We just did, you probably saw in the newspaper, we had a very terrible motor vehicle crash on Lafayette Highway last week during the fair involving a very small child. Very, very significant injuries, very difficult scene for the personnel that were there. A couple of months ago, we were able to send a couple of our staff to some training, essentially to become train the trainer. They're able to conduct what's called ASAP protocol, which is a tool to help work through traumatic events and help you process those. And so we had training, not a training, but we actually had a debriefing last night for our staff that were at that crash scene, utilizing the ASAP protocol to help them make sure that they're able to continue to be successful even after seeing some of the terrible and traumatic things that they have to see. So we're trying to build the toolbox in helping our staff be resilient, helping them to continue to be successful in their careers and utilize things that are available, that they're accessible and proven to be very successful in helping to cope with some of the stressors that we face. So I'm really excited about those opportunities and the potential to make sure that we're investing in our staff to help them be successful long-term.
Thank you, Sheriff.
Met your new soon-to-be chaplain, Keelan, at the
Yeah.
Newburgh Night Out, and he was talking about the ASAP protocol and EMDR, which has been really effective for people in the military. Our HHS professionals do that. And I think that's really important, not only sort of preemptively, but after there's an event, to have somebody that, and he is also working with other fire and law enforcement in the community. So thank you for putting that component back in place.
Absolutely.
So, well, you've had a heavy lift in all fronts since you were appointed, and I am continuously impressed with your leadership. And I can see it in your staff as well, that they are very grateful that you're in this position. And on top of all of what you mentioned, all of the challenges, you've been at almost every parade, and not just you, but your captains, your sergeants, your deputies are with you. And there's just a sense of pride in the department that I haven't seen before. The fair, many of them were at the fair, working the fair, so giving extra time in that way too. National Night Out, I think we had what, 3 cities that we were
4
in?
cities.
4 cities. So I'm really impressed with the amount of time that you put into this. And like you said at the end, it's not just about the technical functions of the job, but about wellness. And I've noticed an effort to bring back that sense of family connection with the department as well and their personal families, which is very impressive and helpful in that regard. So, one of the things that we talked about in the past week too is despite these challenges, and they're significant challenges, as a board and as an administrative team, we are very grateful and impressed with the working relationship with the bargaining team, the Teamsters bargaining team, and their willingness to be respectful, and the respect goes both ways, right? And just some of the tough decisions that we've had to make. None of that is ever easy. And just the whole process has been so positive at least from our standpoint. We don't always have that experience with all of the unions that we have at the county. So I wanted to express that publicly. I know we talked about that privately, but I want to make sure if your team's listening that we're very grateful for them on that front too.
Thank you.
Yes. Thank you, Sheriff. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, let's see. Our next item is our work session. There's nothing today. Item G, our consent agenda has the minutes from last week that we moved forward. And then it looks like a reappointment of Mark Gabler to the Planning Commission. I want to thank Mark for his service to the county over these years. And then we have a couple of school counseling service contracts as well. So I will move approval of the consent agenda. Are there any questions?
No.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. Great, motion passes. Thank you. Item H is old business. There's nothing today. Item I, other business. I'm actually going to move up. Now that we've got Mark and Travis here too. Let's see, I'll start with item I9 since we've got folks waiting. So we'll jump to that one. It's consideration of approval of the revised Park Advisory Board bylaws, and this is Board Order 21-324. The bylaw changes are something that the Parks Board has been working on for quite a while. So these are the changes finally coming forward. So are there any questions for Mark or Travis?
No.
No? Okay. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. All opposed, same sign. Great, motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Quick and easy.
Yep.
Thanks for stopping by.
I'd like to request that we move number 10 also.
Yes,
Okay.
I'm going to do 9 and 10.
Cool.
Yep. Okay, and then item 10, we're moving up, is consideration of approval to revise Board Order 24-173, replacing the suburban zone rate sheet for Yamhill County Solid Waste Department and Recology Western Oregon. And we have folks from Recology and Ashley's here as well. So this was an issue with an incorrect rate sheet. The rates were applied to the wrong year. And so we just, even though we've already
Calculated off the wrong year.
calculated off the wrong year.
Yep.
So we've already approved the increase, but we have to go
Correct.
back and fix the sheet.
Yep.
Any questions on that?
No.
Do you have a motion to approve?
So moved.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. Great, thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, now we'll jump back to item I1, which is consideration of approval of amendment number 2 to agreement number 180161, Board Order 23-176 between Yamhill County and the Oregon Health Authority, OHA, reallocating $100,000 from tuition assistance to other programs and incentives.
And this was moved from tuition assistance to sign-on bonuses, and the amount has not changed, but this is just a request to OHA and using it for the sign-on, the extra bonuses for existing staff. So I would move approval.
So we weren't using the funds for tuition assistance. They were sort of just sitting there, but then we are doing the bonuses, obviously. So this is like a reallocation.
We're still doing both, but based on the tuition utilization, Lindsay identified that, you know, the utilization's not as high
Okay.
and we had needs to cover elsewhere. So that's
Okay.
why it's an adjustment.
Okay,
So we still have some limited that we still have funds available to do the tuition
Tuition,
assistance, and
okay.
we're still doing that.
any other questions?
None.
Did you move?
I
approval?
did.
Commissioner Starrett moved approval. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Thank you. I2, consideration of approval of amendment number 5 to agreement number 026028. Board Order 24-29 between Yamhill County Health and Human Services and the Oregon Health Authority to increase funding in the amount of $274,250.10 for jail diversion services for the total amount of $570,580.02. Retroactive to July 1st of 2024 through June 30th of 2025. And these funds will also help with our House Bill 4002 deflection plan, which I'm happy to announce we were awarded yesterday morning. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Any questions?
None.
Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. Okay, and item I3 is related. Consideration of approval of additional position management authority for 1 FTE of an advanced practice behavioral health clinician and 1 FTE of human services specialist 1. I will move approval. Is there further questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. I4, consideration of approval of an intergovernmental agreement between Yamhill County and the Housing Authority of Yamhill County for purposes of coordination between the county and HIAC or Housing Authority to identify eligible individuals and families for Section 8 vouchers for the Stratus Village project effective September 1st of 2024 through June 30th of 2027 with automatic renewal for successive 3-year terms unless terminated.
And this allows HHS to have a direct pathway for those 10 units. There is no funding associated with it, but we will continue through HHS to provide the same level of services in this Stratus project as we would in other housing options.
Okay.
So I would move approval.
Any questions?
None.
Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. I5 is consideration of approval of a contract employment agreement between Yamhill County and Amy, and I apologize, Amy, if I say this wrong, but Amy Thorkelson, for HHS administrative services in the amount of $38 per hour, not to exceed 19 hours per week, effective August 9th of 2024 through June 30th of 2025, with an automatic renewal unless sooner terminated.
Chair, I move approval.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. I6 and 6 through 8 are really all sort of related together. They're supplemental grants, but I will go through them individually. I6 is consideration of approval of amendment number 1 to the grant agreement number SCP 23-46 between Yamhill County and the Criminal Justice Commission to support the Adult Recovery Court in the amount of $237,720 effective upon full execution through March 5th of 2025. I will move approval. Is there further discussion?
None.
None.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. All opposed, same sign. Great, motion passes. I7, consideration of approval of amendment number 1 to the grant agreement SCP-23-47 between Yamhill County and the Criminal Justice Commission, CJC, to support juvenile drug court in the amount of $238,310 effective upon full execution through March 5th of 2025. I will move approval. Any further discussion?
No,
None.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
I,
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Thank you. I8, consideration of approval of amendment number 1 to the grant agreement number SCP-23-48 between Yamhill County and the Criminal Justice Commission, CJC, to support court coordinated services in the amount of $89,666 effective upon full execution through March 5th of 2025. I will move approval. Any further discussion?
none,
None.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I,
Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Thank you. All right, that concludes our other business. There is nothing for public hearings today. And that brings us to our announcements. This morning, Judge Wiles was able to swear in our new interim county treasurer, Paulette Alexandria. So I want to thank her for her service and sort of jumping in there after our former treasurer abruptly quit during our budget week. But I also want to thank Mike Barnhart for his hard work in the interim when he sort of had to juggle that suddenly, and he just does such a good job for us. And so I really wanted to give him a shout out and make sure that he knows that we appreciate him.
agreed.
This afternoon, I will be meeting with the sheriff and several other elected officials and Congresswoman Andrea Salinas regarding House Bill 4002. We did have the funding approved yesterday by the CJC committee. They went through every county's application and kind of, picked them apart and gave comment and ultimately funded all but one of them. And so we're going to be letting her know what's in our plan, what we plan to do with the money, and also see if there's any way that the federal government can come in and help, because it's clear that additional funding and ongoing funding will be needed.
Did we get our full allocation?
Yes.
Because I heard the one that didn't get approved, it was because they reduced the allocation for the grant application. I was like Washington County or something, right?
Clackamas.
Clackamas didn't
County.
get any, the whole
Didn't
thing.
get
was-
anything.
But they spent a half hour yesterday trying to reconsider Clackamas. They weren't able to, so they're going to schedule another meeting to do that. But I have a lot of frustrations. I won't go into it
Okay.
now, but after we meet with Rep Salinas, I'll let you know at the next meeting how it went. But Tuesday was National Night Out, and we had commissioners in Newburgh and Lafayette and Yamhill, Dayton,
Dayton,
And
Willamina,
Willamina,
McMinnville.
and McMinnville. That's right. So almost all of our cities. And I just wanted to thank our law enforcement teams for their presence in the community and just the wonderful service that they provide for us.
Yes, agreed.
And our sheriff was
great.
making the rounds also.
Yes.
So I
He
saw him at
was.
2. I
He was.
started at Dayton, saw him there. I went to Mac, got a tour of the trailer that was donated by Tualatin Valley Fire. It's a kind of an educational trailer, and it has like this smoke machine in it that'll put smoke on the ceiling. Very cool educational tool. Got the tour of that and then went out to Willamina, and then sheriff's rolling in as I'm rolling out. So he was making the rounds. The coolest was Willamina. They had a dunk tank and one of the deputies was in it, and it was so cool. The kids it's hard to throw the ball hard enough to hit it. So anytime it got close, he'd jump in, but he was jumping in intentionally to almost splash the kids that were standing next to it, but they were
Nice.
enjoying it a lot.
Yeah. And of course, we got our puppy fixes with
Yes,
Canine Tango and
yes.
Nacho Libre.
It was kind of fun to watch the little ones. Our legal assistant had her daughter there. The dog was twice as big as she was, and poking at the dog, and she's, just was having fun, and the dog was very patient.
Oh, yeah.
So appreciate Newburgh and their whole canine team. And Chief Kosmicki was there, and he was making making hot dogs. He was standing at the grill and
Mhm.
everybody else was just so engaged.
It's great. And then, of course, the fair. I was gonna toss that one to you. Give a fair recap.
It was phenomenal. Everything was up this year. I don't know percentages yet, but just rough numbers, I think we're at least 5% up from last year on average. Some things are up more than others. like
Ticket sales, vendor sales,
everything,
everything across the board.
everything.
Nice.
Yep. First number I always get is beer sales. It was up. It went well. We still have issues with parking.
Yeah.
I don't know that we're going to solve those completely. We had plenty of parking. It's just the farther you get away, the more people are just frustrated.
Sure.
So, but we tried our best at it and we'll keep growing off of it. And I think we just keep pushing the advertising. We definitely spent a little extra time on advertising this year and making sure it's just a reminder. Everybody knows the fair's coming. It's just a
Mhm.
reminder, hey, the fair's here. It's this week. It starts Wednesday.
Yeah. Well, clearly it paid off.
It did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
We got to have a conversation with Safeway though. 'Cause we had people parking in Safeway who wanted to go to Safeway and they said they were running through Safeway to try and get out of there fast so they wouldn't be towed. So we got to have a conversation with whoever.
Yeah. I can
Owns that
probably handle
lot.
that.
No, it was great. And there were people at the Sir Mix-a-Lot concert that
Oh my-
don't even like his music and they were
I was there.
they
I'm
were
not
just
into that.
amazed.
But you know who he is. You know
Yeah.
his songs. You're standing there. It was the same exact thing that you heard 20 years ago. It was so, and the vibe of that crowd, it was absolutely amazing. I'm
Yeah, it was
sitting in
off
the
the
info
charts.
booth. I got to watch every single concert. That was the best night to watch people watch a concert. It was phenomenal.
And he starts, with the language and I'm looking around like,
He caught himself though twice, and he's like, "Oh, you know what? I know
Nobody
there's kids
cared.
out there. Sorry,
Nobody cared.
Nobody cared." But he only
No.
it only slipped a couple times.
yeah, it was great. And then
Smash Mouth was
Smash Mouth
awesome.
too.
Yep.
My son was like, I know all these songs. I've watched the movie Shrek. I know all these songs. Awesome.
Yep.
Well, when you get the numbers, that'd be great to see.
I will. I just
Did
sent
that
some
definitely
text
funny.
to Gary, and then I'm also waiting for numbers for the livestock auction. I'm
Oh,
sure we
yeah.
broke another record
Yeah.
there also.
Really, even from 2 years ago.
I think so. Problem is it takes longer because we're leaving, not necessarily bidding, but you can donate to each kid. And so
Mhm.
we're
Okay.
leaving that open,
Okay.
for, I think, 10 days or something.
Gotcha.
So,
You didn't mention the parent showmanship aspect.
nope, I
We-
didn't.
Lots of pictures of
Yep.
Commissioner Johnston with his FFA jacket and doing a remarkably impressive job with goat showmanship. And you've been paying attention because I was looking at the other parents and you definitely were paying attention.
So if you look at my FFA jacket, I forgot that I had little medals on there. They're mostly business related going through FFA. None of them are animal. I've always participated as a buyer in the auction. I've never actually showed. So my daughter's given me, okay, I got a vent. So my daughter was the judge and I got second place, which probably is the correct thing, but she comes up to me, she's like, do you know what the number one nutrition is that you need, most important nutrition for a goat? And I'm like, yeah, it's protein. They need protein so they can grow, muscle. So she moves on. She didn't say you're right or wrong. She just moves on to the next person. Next person answers. By the time I got, I'm like, second place. She's like, yeah, it's water, not protein. You answered wrong. I'm like, so I got
funny.
but
So that was
for
your
best
original?
dressed, I totally should have got first place
yes.
for best dressed.
That was your original jacket.
Yes, that's my original
I
jacket.
wondered where you got.
Yeah, I
that
was like,
because
it
it
looks a
fit.
little
Nope.
tight.
Well,
Yep.
Did you take
Oh no, it
his
was a
jacket?
that corduroy. It really holds things in pretty nice.
No, it looked great. I have to say, it looked great.
Yep.
You guys are
Funny.
very engaged.
Is that the first year they've done that?
Yes.
Parent.
Yep.
Nice.
And it was so fun. And I totally, you watch like videos of kids showing animals, and there are some die-hard kids that are just like hyper focused. You don't move. You're always watching the judge, and if the judge moves, you move to the other side of your animal. I did
Yeah.
that, and I still got second. Gonna have to have a talk with the judge.
I just can't get over the tears. Those kids get so emotionally attached to those animals, and then, you know, when they auction them off,
Yeah.
there's tears.
Yep.
Makes me sad. Okay, we won't look at you.
Don't look at me.
All right. Any further announcements?
Yes,
been
I
a
just
busy
wanted
week.
to mention, I had an opportunity to meet with colleagues from Marion County, Commissioner Bethel, and from Pope, Commissioner Craig Pope at Northwest Seniors and Disability Services, talking about long-term care placements and some of the struggles and barriers in making sure that seniors and folks with disabilities continue to be covered regardless of you know, their eligibility. What do we do in those situations where they lose their coverage? So I was very impressed with what Northwest Seniors is doing, and want to say thank you to Tanya DeHart. She has retired, and we have two co-directors, Charlene Gibbs and Devery Hackenberg. I also want to mention a letter that I wrote to our ODHS regional and local representatives. And this has to do with the unfortunate tragedy of a teen suicide who was being moteled with caseworkers in the room because there was no placement. And I have asked in the past for some kind of report regarding House Bill 233, which I had asked that this is a bill that be sponsored that tracks the psychiatric prescribing of drugs to our kids in foster care, because the federal government had determined Oregon was one of the worst states. Finally, since we could get no information, we had a bill passed, and the bill was supposed to be able to provide this information. It's apparently not being looked at with any frequency in this county, but I'm asking for a specific breakdown of this particular individual and this youth, how many psychiatric medications, what were the circumstances, and how was a child able to take his or her own life in a motel with two caseworkers. So looking for some information and really concerned about the fact that we're not utilizing this data. And I did pass that along. I'll report back and see what we get.
Did you say the child was in the foster care system?
Typically, when there is no placement for youth with behavior problems or specific therapeutic needs, they will motel them with two caseworkers. And we've had instances in the past of, obviously, youth are having more and more violent behaviors at earlier ages, which is causing a problem for retention of caseworkers. They are in fear for their lives, for their safety. Not only that, but we have kids that are not receiving the therapeutic care because there are no therapeutic foster homes to the degree that we need them. Some of these kids are exhibiting behaviors at age 5 years old. But when you start to medicate kids with 4, 5, and 6 psychiatric medications, and then we wonder why we're having this fallout, I think we need to look at it, especially since it's been documented that psychiatric medication in certain populations in youth is causing suicidal behaviors.
Very sad. When did this occur? Was it
Last
year?
Last week.
Oh, last week. Okay, so not the same case. I was thinking of the young man in Newburgh.
No, that was a different case.
Okay.
This is an actual completed suicide.
Okay. Did you have anything else on your list? Nope. Okay. All right. Well, I think that is a wrap. Let's see. Anything else? Anything else for the good of the order? Okay. I will.
Oh, I do have
Oh,
a rough number. So we're around 1.2 million for livestock auction sales, and last year we were 1,077,000. So it is a record.
Wow.
And we're not done with add-ons yet.
They were saying 2 years ago that was the really
That was the
large.
double. We were 400 and change, or, well, I'm getting my years mixed up, but
Okay.
yeah, it doubled 1 year.
Okay.
Yeah, last year was over 1 million, which was a record, and then this year we just set another record.
Nice.
Well done.
All right. Okay, if there's nothing else for the good of the order, I will adjourn the Yamhill County Board of Commissioners formal session for August 8th, 2024. It is 11 o'clock on the dot. Thanks.